My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to this episode of Legally Clueless, and this is what's coming up.
And then I turn and I look at him, and then the idea of like having to breastfeed for the first time, I found that like insane. I remember my sister came and like when my mom was there and they were saying like she saw me breastfeeding and she's like, what? Because I'm a little sister. I'm the youngest, I'm the last born. So she couldn't believe, like, what do you mean? I felt different. Like I'm someone's mom now, right? I just knew that my life had changed. When in March, when I found out I was pregnant, this time round, I had no choice but to do sobriety. I'm happy to say now I'm going on 2 years of sobriety. I'm really happy and proud of myself for that. And I did the work. I joined the 12-step programs. And I found out that addiction is a spiritual malady. I started doing the inner work, like healing. Legally Clueless has been a part of that for me. The podcasts, the stories, and like even just seeing Adele Onyango just being herself. She has been a huge part of my recovery journey for the past, it's been like 2 years, yeah.
That's part 2 of Rahab's story. We're about to jump into it, but before we do, I hope you're doing well. I really, really hope you are. Thank you to every one of you who sent birthday wishes my way. I'm still working through replying every comment and every DM, so I'm gonna get to you. If I haven't replied to you yet, I'm definitely gonna get to you. I had a brilliant birthday. My goodness. I was by the beach, 5 a.m. on my birthday watching the sunrise. It was incredible. It was just incredible. Like all the people who truly see me, and I mean like truly see me, sent love my way. Some so unexpectedly. Like I think like the first message I got midnight into my birthday was like a friend who I knew from years ago, and that he even remembered to the extent of sending me the birthday message at midnight was incredible. And then I got a call from someone I met in November who we don't know each other that well, but then they saw that it was my birthday and immediately called me on Instagram. I did not know Instagram does audio calls. And it was such a pleasant, like it was so pleasant. Like I'm just like, this is so kind. Like you see me. When I came back from the beach, first I do have to say, before even coming back from the beach, I at the beach was rereading The Sex Lives of African Women. And if you have not read that book, please read it. Especially if you're an African woman listening to this, please go and read that damn book. It is so powerful. It is just so powerful. I had forgotten. Rereading it, I was like, oh my goodness, right? So then I needed to remember to tell you that. And then I came back and I had birthday dinner last night with some of my favorite women, and my best friend put it together. And I told everyone to don't buy me a gift, just write me a letter because I love letters. And I spent most of today reading the letters. And oh my goodness, I know some incredible women. Oh my God. One even wrote me a poem. Like, that's how seen I am by my tribe. Do you know how wonderful that feels? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And then, there's somebody who recently has come into my life and is so special to me, actually. And they are navigating a hard time, and I knew that. And they lifted their heads just to send love my way. And that really touched me. So, like, guys, I've just been reminded how powerful being seen and being appreciated and being loved and allowing those who love you to love you is. Oh, I'm so grateful. I'm walking in gratitude. The letters are going to go into something I have called the life box. And I'm still like toying with the idea of unpacking what that is for you during the midweek teas this week. I'll see how I feel. I might have a more pressing topic to talk about, but I really think everybody should have a life box, and I may unpack it for you on Wednesday. If you want me to, let me know in the comments. But right now, let's get into part 2 of Rahab's stories, where Rahab's story. My goodness, why am I swallowing my words? And she talks about like womanhood, sobriety, motherhood, healing. Hey, let me tell you, there's so many gems from this second part.
100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
Because, society, I once had a comedian that I respect so much say, comedy in Nairobi is like, you see those acrobats who stand in the road and what are they? They do that stuff. He said it's a lower art form like than that, because people will come laugh, but comedians are just not seen as serious, or like it's not an art form. In other countries, it's something that like, oh, that's what you do, like it's revered, like it's like looked, oh wow, that's a like places like America or the UK, or even like in Africa, like South Africa. But here it's kind of like in its infancy stages, so it's not like a thing. And then especially like the kind of comedy I do, like in the sense of like satire, like there's this new like the English speaking comedy, and because here we have like the tribal caricatures, like the Churchill and the so called, so I just felt like a duck, like a it's like I was a black duck and surrounded by white ducks, because I never fit in and I never belonged. But somehow through this thing called comedy, I met other people who were kind of like me, going through this similar journey and doing their thing, different levels and all that. One thing I loved about doing comedy and my journey was, especially last year, I got to kind of, now that I was doing it years in, I started to notice like a lot of the politics that happen. And especially being a woman, I now being pregnant is when I kind of started to face and see the element of the patriarchy, and how this idea that a men, especially on stage, they can really get away with a lot of things, saying things, talking about their penises, their bodily functions, how they masturbate, like all kinds of. But when I, as a woman, would talk about, like, so I have this joke, I have one of these jokes where I talk about like how I love being on a Buddha Buddha, because it's like a vibrator on wheels, especially I don't even like it when they do the smooth roads. I like I like it when they go to those like rough bumpy roads. It's like I would talk about those roads that have those little bumps, and then I'll do those kind of like make my eyes and roll and that stuff. And I remember sometimes I would see women and people just look at me like disgust, like it's that girl. And I think I didn't care. I loved that. And then someone would be like, oh my God, you're so brave. I love that. You went into that, like I would even ask, like, I would ask him, like, to take me to the rough, bumpy roads. Like, I mean, I did like what is this place called? Westlands, what is it called? That road? The expressway. Yeah, so I would say I complain when they bring the expressway. But anyway, at least, the road down there, how bad it is. I'm like, yeah. just I just get on up, so I turned something, because at the time I would use Buddha Buddhas because they were like cheaper. So I turned a negative because they're so unsafe. But I turned like something that was something that because at the time I didn't have money, so it was either matatus or Buddha Buddhas. So like that experience for me, I made it into something comical, like, yeah, I'm getting off, at least I'll arrive, I'll get to my destination, if you know what I mean, I'll get off. And it was hilarious, like in terms of like that. Or I would talk about being in matatus, like, how crowded and cramped they are, like, and like, so I remember this joke I told. It's like I felt like a non-participating member in an orgy. Like, it's like, sorry, like, why am I here? Excuse me, just trying to navigate through those limbs and trying to move out. And the description I put is like just being in these like big, I think I looked for the most like absurd, like it's called a paradiso. Those are the matatus in like a place called Gedurai. They're big buses, so it's like a lot of people. So you're trying to like maneuver, and you're sat in the back, and you're trying to move all the way to the front to get off. So that, like, I just kind of talked about that, and people were like, "That is hilarious. I've never thought about it like that." I just I transmuted pain, like my everyday experiences of being in a matatu, how that feels, and then I made it into something hilarious for myself. And I think that's kind of when I started to see how impactful this thing called comedy is, because it's like, these are my and I think I love to do like observational slice of life type of humor, where certain situations that just everyday people go through, and they but I observe, and I started taking my pen and paper and writing these kind of situations, and then turning them into like a hilarious kind of you know I would just like exaggerate it and make it absurd, and I just kind of love that. I really enjoyed that. I got to a level of success that I had never gotten in terms of comedy last year. And it's because I was very consistent with my writing, with my performance. And then it was like this idea that, once you give birth, you're definitely going to have to take a break because you're going to have a baby. So it was like, I felt like there was a ticking clock. So it's like, get this comedy as much as you can. This thing that you love, do it, do it, do it. And I performed up until the day I gave birth. Like, so there was a point, I remember it was, because it was November 8th. So the week before I went in, but I was told it was false labor. And funny enough, I chose the hospital. It's here, Mary Immaculate, Gitanga Road. And I chose it because it was 5 minutes away from where I did comedy. That's how in it I was, because I was like, I thought of myself, I had this dream where I'm on stage and my water breaks. And then it's like having to get those. I even prepared some of the comedians, like, in case it happens, and like, they look at me like, okay. Yeah, because I just wanted to keep doing this thing. And it's not heavy lifting. It's just a place you hold a mic and you can do it. So it's really friendly for pregnant women. So, yeah, I had false labor. I was sent back. I remember, and it was a Wednesday. It was a Wednesday. It was a Tuesday night going, and I remember that Wednesday. I was like, you mean I won't go for for the open mic today? You remember I wanted to tell that joke. That's what I was thinking in the hospital. But then, so when I was released, I said, okay. I remember I went that Friday to another open mic, and then now that Wednesday, I did 2 different rooms in like different places. The day I gave birth. Okay, not exactly the day of, but the day I got admitted. I'll never forget, it was November 6th. And yeah, it was a Wednesday, and I performed the first place at around like 8 p.m. and then I went to the second room. It was around 10, 9, 30, 10, almost 10. And I remember now, after that, I had called my cousin. There was someone there with me, just like, oh, by the way, I might give birth. My due date is almost like 1 or 2 days. So I said it as a joke. And I was like, okay, I'll probably go home. And I had packed. By the way, at that point, I was walking around with my diaper bag full of the baby's clothes and that stuff, just in case, just like I'm ready. And I remember now, it was 10. So it was like 2 hours later. I was like, oh, by the way, there was a friend of mine, an Indian friend of mine, he was having his chicken. I was like, by the way, you can finish your chicken and everything, but I'm in labor, so maybe when you're done, very very I was very composed. Like, yeah, when you're done, maybe you can just drive me to the hospital. He looked at me, he dropped his, what? I was like, yeah, it's fine, I'm fine. I mean, so when I went, they told me, yes, you're in labor. You've actually been having Braxton Hicks the whole day. And I just think only a woman, and only a woman can be able to do that. Like, just kind of hold that, because I think when I'm on stage, it's true, I don't feel anything. I didn't feel, I mean, I felt some kind of discomfort, and I think my pain skills, I don't know, I think I just was on a mission that day. So that November 7th, I'm admitted at like 1 a.m. I go through difficult, like I had to be induced twice. So that's when it had to be a CS, now on the 8th in the morning. And I remember I just felt like this is like a beginning, like I have a whole new identity. I'm someone's mother. And I remember when they brought him, like when he came out and then he was crying. "Ah!" My son has a very healthy pair of lungs. His name is Sebastian. And he came out crying, and they put him, that skin to skin thing, and I saw him and I said, Sebastian, because I would talk to him and he knew his name. And I named him after my late dad, by the way. So I put him on my skin and then I said, hi. And then he looked at me and then he was quiet. And then now we went to the room, and then now I had a new identity, which is Mama Sebastian. And I don't know, it was just amazing. I remember I'd look at him. So when you go through a CS, there's something called an epidural where they numb you from the waist down. So I couldn't even move, and then I'm just looking like, that's my baby. I would turn around, it's like, that's my baby. Like that idea of just kind of going through that and imagining like, what, I'm a mom. And then I turn and I look at him, and then the idea of like having to breastfeed for the first time, I found that like insane. I remember my sister came, and like when my mom was there and they were saying, like, she saw me breastfeeding and she's like, what? Because I'm a little sister. I'm the youngest, I'm the last born. So she couldn't believe, like, what do you mean? I was also like, I think I felt different. Like, I'm someone's mom now, right? It was just insane. And now I just knew that my life had changed. Yeah, so that was the beginning of an era for me. So, backtrack. I decided to now, when in March, yeah, March, when I found out I was pregnant, this time round, I had no choice but to do sobriety. And I'm happy to say now I'm going on 2 years of sobriety. I'm really happy and proud of myself for that. And I did the work. I joined the 12-step programs. I kind of like, and I found out that addiction is a spiritual malady. So I started doing the inner work, like healing, like understanding. Um, yeah, and Legally Clueless has been a part of that for me. Like the podcasts, the stories, and like even just seeing Adele Onyango just being herself. She has been a huge part of my recovery journey for the past, it's been what, like 2 years, yeah. So kind of following platforms and also news, Janet Mbogwa, that's also been someone I like the way she speaks about issues. And so there have been like certain women, especially here in Kenya, that I've been looking at certain, I noticed even my taste in music changed. I just stopped listening to that like everyday pop, hip hop, that some of that, like the messaging, I just couldn't. And then also just like playing it around my son, something just felt like I started listening to like instrumental classical music, or gospel, like Maverick City, some high vibrational message, because I realized people don't understand our diet. What do you feed yourself? What do you listen to? Because that's something I understood like in my mental health journey. What are you listening to? If you're listening to angry kind of music or content, then of course you're like, they say, garbage in, garbage out. So I realized that I had to take a break and just kind of feed the way I started feeding my body. Like, I remember, this is actually something I also turned into a joke. I had very strange cravings when I was pregnant. I had bean. I would crave beans and something called njahe. Njahe, now these are black beans. And it was such a strange craving. And I remember I made a joke like, avocado, bananas. I'm like, am I having a gym baby? Is my son like secretly buff, like in there, like doing rips with my fallopian tubes, like, like, and he's gonna come out ripped, like, wait, mom, like now in Swahili, wait, mama, let your nyonyo apa, like, bring that breast here. So yeah, like, I started having like healthy cravings. Like, I remember when I would be at a restaurant and the fries and the coleslaw, I'd be like, that coleslaw looks good. So it was strange. As opposed to most women, they want the fries, the pizzas, the cakes, the like at cafe, like, like that kind of, like the pastries, yeah, like Java or this kind of any, yeah. But that was never my craving. So I was like, I was shocked, like, hey, this is interesting. This baby. So what happened subsequently was I started having a really good diet because I would crave healthy food, and I noticed when I eat better, my mood and like my body was good. So that's how I learned my diet is important. So I thought, if I'm feeding my body well and it's responding well, how about my mind? How about my spirit? I think in life people tend to focus on what they eat and forget about their spirit and their mind. So for me, having gone through mental health issues, it was very important what I fed my mind. So I noticed that I got to a place I don't consume as much news anymore, because I would just watch. Even when I go home and my mother's watching the news, it's so devastating. It just makes you feel like the world is this place. And especially last year when what was going on was going on. So it's important to be informed, but at the same time, it's like take it in chunks and bits and pieces, because it has a way. The news has a way of making you feel unsafe. Everything is going to hell. That's the general messaging, and that can really affect one's mental health. So I took a step back and started to see things objectively. So I was very particular in what I listened to, consumed my mind and my spirit, like finding community, uh, going for activities where I could belong, finding, joining those 12-step programs. Just that has really helped my spirit. And they say the opposite of addiction is connection. There's this like study about like rat park, the rats are put in a place and there's just like the water with the opiates, and immediately the rat would get addicted because it was alone. And it kept going for the water until like it died. And then now there's another one where in the rat park, and they have two waters, the normal water and the one with the opiates. But now it's a community. They're different, several rats. And in the place where there's a community, most of the rats would go for the normal water and they would leave the other water alone. And I just thought how telling was some study done. And I just thought to myself how amazing it is, because it's like now that I have that sense of community, what I craved from the substance, it was a feeling of connection. And at the time in my life, I didn't have that. But once, the way I am right now, being a mom, being loved, having my family, having people around me, being of value, going around talking about my story and how I recovered and the challenges that I faced and how I can help people. And I have several positions that I'm able to kind of help use my voice to help people in a very anonymous way, and that helps me, my spirit, so much so that I have no desire to, because I realized what I was trying to get from it. And also it was an idea of like escaping life. My life was sad. I didn't like who I was. So it was like I was trying to go somewhere else in terms of in my mind. But now I like my reality. So I don't want to escape it. I want to live life fully present. I want to do the yoga. Like I started doing a few months ago. I read about Bikram hot yoga, and it's really healing. So there's like, you go into a hot room. It's like sauna meets yoga. So you sweat out all your toxins, and there's this like clarity that happens. And I started doing it, and I felt so good. And it helps. It's apart from losing weight, like the tummy and all that stuff, it's also helped me in terms of clarity and even that heat. Something it does to your internal organs. I feel really good, and just kind of exploring various forms of art and self-expression and meditation, sound, going for something like a floating sound bath and crystals, those kind of alternative things that I can do that have helped me heal, because it's psychosomatic, right? That's what they'll tell you. Like, I don't have to take a pill. And then the problem with some of these pills that psychiatrists prescribe to people when they give you a diagnosis, some of them have severe side effects if you take them for 5, 10 years, and they just tell you to keep taking them. So this idea that like living holistic, not taking that kind of stuff, like just being like drinking chamomile tea. There's a lot of herbs, chamomile, ginger. There's a lot of like teas and things that you can drink and take that help you with like alleviating feelings of depression, isolation. You don't have to go that route. For some people, I understand medically they do that, they have to do that. But I'm just saying, I wish psychiatrists would more lean into like the holistic stuff before they start to prescribe the hard stuff. Because some of these things, maybe it's like, for my story, like it wasn't the psychiatrist who helped me get sober. It was finding a community of people like me who understood what I was going through and telling me to be sober one day at a time, and kind of doing that for a long period of time and seeing the overall change, which is very positive in my life. Right now, I'm at the best possible place that I have ever been in my life, by the way, because I realized I also went through a lot of childhood trauma growing up. So, uh, like, I don't know, I just like who I am right now. And I like the feeling of stability that I get. And my son just turned 1 year, 1 month. I'm a great mom. I love him so much. I love my life. And it's just amazing. I don't know. I like who I am. I like my reality. I like my waking reality. I don't have to go anywhere or pretend to be anyone else that I'm not. And I also appreciate the experiences of pain, because I've been able to transmute them to be able to help. There's one of the steps, it's like, we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will know that our experiences can help others along the way. That's one of the steps. And I feel that like I'm able to sit with people who are going through. I have a lot of empathy and compassion that I did like 10 years ago when I was like in my early 20s, as opposed to where I'm at right now. I'm turning, but this is my birthday month, December, and I'm turning 34 this year. Yeah, so it's such an amazing time in my life, and I think I just really like who I am and where I'm going. And now on Jamhuri Day, I chose that day for a purpose. I'm having a stand-up comedy show, and it represents freedom for me, because that's what comedy is. Comedy is freedom, freedom of expression. Like, comedians really test the idea of freedom of expression to its most absurd levels. Storytelling, and just I think this is the first year where I love being in the state of being. I love I'm comfortable in my own body, even in terms of what I wear, how I dress, and something about being a mom. You're not really checking who's seeing you. You dress for comfort and how you feel, as opposed to that tight outfit that makes you look No, no, no. You just something about being comfortable in my body, being able to inhabit parts of my body that I've never experienced before. And I just kind of, well, I love that. Yeah, I think maybe like some of the challenges I faced as a stand-up comedian, generally just as a female. So, like, I mean, apart from heckling, sometimes I can just, because I've noticed men, when when people are heckling, men can just be like, like, yeah, shut the fuck up, or something like that. But I notice a lot of female comedians can't do that. Not necessarily can't, or because it's, I guess, women, that's not really in our nature. Like, if you're walking in the street and someone shouts at you or says something, you're not gonna just, it's rare for you to just get back and start doing that. But so that's kind of one of those things that I always like. So we have to find with, either we pretend we ignore them, or some people do different variations of something. But that's usually like especially performing in a bar where people are just drunk and just like dealing with that. That sucks, And even from our own male counterparts, people making jokes like, ha ha ha, women aren't funny. And then I notice a lot of female, because there's very few of us generally, especially in the comedy scene here in Nairobi. It's like the ratio is like 1:20. So the ones who are really funny, because it's like, can you imagine? It's like those women who are like in male dominated fields like IT or engineering. They have to be the best. Or even like, I would imagine like black women in America right now. It's, before you get to those levels, you have to have always be the top of your game, because it's the cut. Even to be able to get to that level is so difficult. Yeah. So I think we really just do, in terms of like, women are good. I think more women should get into stand-up comedy, because women, we know, it's like hosting. Like, you bring people in, and women are funny, like, generally. And then the art form, it's very easy to learn. And I've met a lot of people in my life who are like charismatic, and I think you would make a good comedian. But there's a difference between being like everyday funny and learning and putting yourself out there, holding a mic. And like, so when you do well, we say you kill. Like, hey, you killed it. When you do badly, you bomb, I know. Many a jokes have been made about bombing and everything. So I love the fact that, even the days when you do, one thing it taught me, comedy, is not to seek external validation, in the sense of, when you do bad, like when you bomb, you go home and you feel like, why didn't the people laugh? But then you realize it's like a job. You know how, like, any other job, sometimes you do well, sometimes you do badly. You do it enough times, it's like you go through the motions. There are good days, there are bad days, just like any other profession. So that's one thing I also had to learn. So it's not like a reflection of my worth. Because in the early days, I would feel so bad. I would really take it personally. But now these days, I kind of just understand that it is what it is. And of course, there's that kind of like favoritism, segregation, people using, their platforms to push certain messaging or brands or people or certain those kind of things. But I've noticed that's something that just happens in life. And I suppose, of course, there's the huge element of the patriarchy in terms of like the wage gap and people giving women more opportunities, in the sense of like feeling like a diversity high, as opposed to like you're doing your right. Even the idea that just saying I'm a comedian, not the idea of like kind of having to identify as you're just a comedian. You happen to be female, but you're a comedian because you do the same exact thing that the person. You take the mic, you make the people laugh, you host, you tell the jokes, you do everything. So I think this year I started. I like going it alone, because I realized there's parts of my personality that I want to flesh out that cannot be done in a group or a collective. So I want to kind of explore myself in a very, for myself, by myself, because right now having a baby means I can't just like go certain places at certain times. I have to plan myself and everything. So I decided that I would go in it alone, like try and see where I can go by myself. And then I have my dreams, places I want to go, things I want to do. So I want to explore it and kind of like live the full expression of my being, my soul.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless.
What a powerful, powerful, powerful story by Rahab. I would love to know what you connected with across part 1 and part 2. Let me know in the comments. Drop a comment wherever you're listening to this on. And my goodness, she really framed healing as what it really is. Like, you're not trying to become someone new. You're remembering who you are. You are already whole. You just need to remember that. And even her talking about sobriety and motherhood and creativity and like self-trust, you know, all arriving together was just a testament to like how important self-awareness is, and also community, right? Community. And I also sensed this deep courage that Rahab has to stop escaping her life and start sitting in her life fully. Does that make sense? You know, especially when she was talking about like sobriety and grief. And I found that to be quite powerful, but I want to know what you connected with. Drop me a comment. I really love getting comments from you. Now, if her story has resonated with you and there's something that you want to share, remember you can share your story on this podcast. We have the storyteller form in the show notes. Fill it out and one of our correspondents will get back to you. If you're African, you have a story, we want to hear it, you know. Remember, this show is out every single Monday. Wednesdays, we have the newsletter and the midweek teas. Please sign up for the newsletter on our website. Thursdays, we have for mannerless women. And Friday, we have a brand new show called Difference She Makes. So please subscribe to whatever platform you're streaming this on, and subscribe to our YouTube as well. And as I always say, thank you so much for listening to this show to the very, very end. I have nothing but love for you and appreciation. And I truly, truly believe that you have every single thing it takes to heal.
That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.